So the first step is you take the plate out of the box. It comes with 4 nutserts that you have to install. Step 1 is to place them in their position, tap them with a hammer. Then my technique is I use the bolts and cross torque until I pull them in tight. Once you've put the nutserts onto the one objective plate, then you remove the Hobie handle and place the Hobie handle bolts in a bag so you'll have them when you want to return it to its stock position. So we remove the handle, then your strap hinges, let me see if I lift the hatch, you can see a little better. If you look down in here, Hobie had a recess in the hull that those straps go into. Hobie also has a plastic mounting point that is pilot drilled for the screw that Hobie uses to attach them. What you have to do is take these straps off and save the Hobie screw, and then when we reinstall them on the mount plate, because it's thicker, one objective gives you a bigger screw. Now here's the fun part. Even if I remove that holding strap, the hatch is in the way of removing the hatch straps from the kayak and reinstalling them in the reinstall process of the bow mount. So you have to take the bungee off the kayak, and it takes a 10mm wrench on this screw here, and you can see that's a pretty tight fit. And it's under tension. That's not fun to take that apart. This is the hardest part, and it's just to give me the ability to access the screw that holds the straps for the hinge for the lid. I removed that screw so that I can remove the hinge screw, and then we're going to replace the hinge screw with a longer one that secures the back of the motor mount. And then repeat on the other side. So I've removed where the straps that are the hinges for the hatch cover is. After we install the mount, we'll use longer screws to replace the hinges for the cover. Now take your bow mount plate, get the longer bolt that one objective provides, insert the bolt through the handle, through the mount, get them started into the kayak just like the original handle mount was, and tighten it down, but not all the way, maybe 2/3 of the way. At this stage you want it to be loose. Come back here. Take your longer screw through the washer, through the strap, and be careful to find where the original mounting hole that Hobie has, and just get it started. Repeat that process over here. Now that both these screws are in their original mounting hole, do them about 2/3 of the way, same as you did the front. You want it to be loose. Now, because everything can slide, you slide it up tight, tighten the bow handles completely, then come back here, tighten these completely. Your kit from One Objective comes with the hardware necessary to replace the Hobie handle screws with the longer ones that mount the mount. So I've taken the longer bolts that One Objective supplies to replace the factory handle bolts. I can get that back in there. There it goes. And I want to put them through the mount. Go ahead and get it started, being careful not to cross thread it. Go to the other side, repeat. Now your hatch is once more hinged to the kayak, but the hinge has two components, the strap and the bungee. Now you're going to have to take the bungee and get it started onto that nylock nut, and that's not easy because the rod tubes are somewhat in the way. So what I did was, if I started with this side, I'd pull this one all the way through, so I've got as much slack as possible. That's the part the GoPro couldn't bear to watch, me trying to get this bungee back on with all the tension that's on the bungee. Put the Phillips head screw and hold it down. I'm holding the camera, but I then take my hand and hand start the nylock nut, making sure it's not cross-threaded. Then take a 10mm wrench and put more turns on it, and then basically get it about half to 2/3 the way threaded, so that you're giving yourself a little bit of slack on the other side. Then repeat the process over here. Now it's going to be a real fight because you're fighting the tension of that bungee. Once again, hand start the nylock nut. Kind of use your hand to push down on the rod tubes to get them a little out of the way. So once you got that nylock nut started by hand and not cross-threaded, you can put the 10mm wrench on it and get a few more turns. And once you've got it solidly on there, then it's just hold the wrench on it, tighten it with a screwdriver. But it isn't fun because you're under, these bungees are under a lot of tension. So it's not fun to do this last step. That's the only part of it that's really hard. But once you've completed that, dealing with these bungees is the hardest part of the whole process. You can take the bow mount plate and remember, we're using One Objective's bolts because the nut certs that One Objective gave you are English, and the bolts that Motor Guide gives you are metric. You don't want to use the Motor Guide bolts. Place the quick release puck on here. Go. There we go. All right, so there it is. I may use a different system for raising it and releasing it. This is the one I use on the Outback. And I may also And I may also change how I'm going to wire it from how I did it on the Outback. There it goes. It's like motor depth is pretty much the same as what I used on the Outback. And in theory, you're supposed to still be able to use your hatch. So the simplest way is I'll put a fitting down here that will anchor this so that when you pull on it, it pulls the release, and then just up and into the kayak. There it is. So now we have a bow mount motor that we can use on either the Outback or on the Pro Angler 12. So that's it for the Motor Guide bow mount plate from One Objective. We've installed it. We've installed the Motor Guide motor on it. Next we have to wire it. So our next video will be installing a Newport NK 180 motor onto the Pro Angler, and we have a second Newport mount so we can install it on the Outback as well. Thanks again for watching.